We are so back. A few months ago, I committed to building Tom on Mars' full-size Venator in survival. After nearly a month of gathering materials, I began building, and finally I got maybe a third of the way through the build. This video will condense around 2 months of work and hundreds of hours spent building into a short and enjoyable video. If you'd like to see a full video of all my replays leading up to this point, I'll be uploading that as well later on. To begin, as I mentioned in my previous video, this build is large enough that I was forced to put part of it underwater just so it wouldn't go past the world's build limit, and I was immediately forced to suffer those consequences. Right off the bat, Litematica does not like you building underwater, and its default settings make it pretty much impossible to do so. A few internet searches later, I was able to make the schematic visible underwater, though it was still tough to build without running into other issues. If you're unfamiliar, dolphins will play with items you drop and speed you up exponentially when trying to swim, two things that make building underwater with them simply awful. In summary, if you're building underwater, be aware of dolphins. They suck. I wonder where all those dolphins went. As I built, it quickly became obvious the toughest part, the slabs, which I'll explain soon. For anyone familiar with Litematica, there's a neat little option known as Easy Place, which essentially places everything for you. Floating blocks, double slabs, anything. Luckily for me, this server I'm on disallows this function. So what's that mean for me? Well, every slab you see placed, lower, upper, and double, is all placed manually by yours truly. While I had others working on this project with me, I elected to do the slabs mostly on my own, as I eventually figured out a decent system to place them efficiently, letting everyone else do the less strenuous parts of the build. In the meantime, the area quickly became too large to fit my server-bound render distance, which led to me using maps to fully display the build. Okay, so all of that's great progress, right? You see this box, this little L right here? Well, that's the hanger on the underside of the Venator. Now, if we just slide on over here, that's right there, which means I've still got all of this to do entirely in slabs. This is fantastic. While slabs were quite tedious, progress was still decently fast, this screenshot having been taken on the 7th of May while I began in the middle of April. That being said, I've still got a very long way to go. I completed all the way to the tip in mangrove slabs, leaving the rest to be filled in still, beginning in sections at the rear, once again showing just how large this build would be. Though it's not clear here, this set of maps is in a 5x9 space, which in total is a space of over 737,000 blocks. And keep in mind that's only accounting for the X and Y axes, not including Z. Granted, not all of that space is filled, but that doesn't mean it's not still a ton of space to work in. The next section I began on was the steep slanted shape right before the side hangar. As mentioned before, I began building these areas in sections, not necessarily because it was faster, but because the results were far more noticeable, which helps drive my motivation to continue. Without the sectioned areas, progress felt far slower when it took me 30 minutes just to complete a single layer, and that time would only get larger with each layer I completed. With this wing section done, all that remained was to finish the wall section, greebling it all. Afterwards I jumped straight into the wing section with the central hangar, my motivation quite high still despite each little section taking days at a time. Electing not to build the hangar doors, I moved straight to the next section, this being the last unique section before the main slanting shape. Despite the continued repetition, I still had an all-time high motivation, though I was beginning to feel some dread about having to do all of this on the other side of the build. Regardless, I remained focused and continued grinding out the slabs. It didn't take long to finish this section, but before beginning on the last straight section of slabs, I decided to do the other side first. Though daunting, I managed to grind it out fully in just 3 days, despite complaints that I was spending too much time building. Coming into the final stretch, I initially planned to build both sides at a time with no sectioning, but soon realized just how long that would take, eventually sectioning areas and focusing on one side at a time. Regardless of the sectioning feeling faster, each portion still took me at least a day to do, if not 2 or 3. By now I was beginning to feel burnout creeping in, but where I was so close to being done with slabs, I pushed through and forced myself to finish, setting a goal for myself to finish before the end of May. With the entire underside completely done, with a day to spare I might add, I barely took the time to appreciate it before jumping straight into the engines, knowing they would likely be the next most tedious part. The schematic previously had them 100% filled in, which I quickly decided against, instead making them all hollow. This saved time, energy, and plenty of my own sanity, as I was sold for almost all of the engines. I completed one of the 2 largest engines in 2 days, and soon after I whipped out the second one in 2 more days. They may not look that crazy, but it took several days for a reason, and they barely fit my render distance from one end to the other. I continued the engine grind, building these 2 small ones in only a day, then I moved on to the second largest engines. With engines done on this side, I finished them on the other side of the tail, and then jumped straight away into finishing the underside hanger, a task that took at least 3 hours longer than I expected. It's now June 11th, and this world has since been migrated to another more relaxed server, which I'll further explain what that entails soon. First, I took to building the wedges next to the engines. Able to complete both wedges in only a day, I went directly to building the massive sphere in the middle. These new relax rules I mentioned allowed me to use Easy Place, a genuine lifesaver for this section, at minimum tripling my speed. That said, it has so far been the only place I've used Easy Place since I do still mostly enjoy the simple manual placing of everything else. Then last of all, the Annihilation Silos, a relatively easy build, but still massive and forcing me to build 2. But luckily I had a lot more help with them, thanks in part to Ethan and Lucas. Mirroring this, we're now in the present, and wow, this is honestly far more progress than I could have hoped for. I still have many millions of blocks to place, and many more months of work to go. But for now, I am genuinely proud of how far it's come so soon. I've made it this far, and I have no intention of stopping, so if you'd like to stay informed on my progress, as well as other future projects, please do consider subscribing, as your feedback means a lot to me.